and get at me. You're hating on me, you should come and get at me.
Last season, the Bucks won 56-17, giving them the first seed in the Eastern Conference, though they were eliminated in the second round by the Miami Heat. Their top performers were Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez, and their more interesting player is Dante DiVincenzo. Giannis won the MVP last year. He's a back-to-back MVP winner. He's an elite player. Definitive top 5. Like, he's probably going to be a top 3 player in the league for the next 7 or 8 years. The league's best finisher, probably. He's unstoppable one-on-one. Great defender, defensive player of the year, guard all 5 positions, disruptive, improved playmaker. He's really improved at passing out of double teams. Obviously, with him being the MVP and being unstoppable one-on-one, driving to the rim, he's going to see a lot of double teams, and he's going to get a lot of help defense where all 5 sets of eyes are going to be focused on him. So it's been more and more important for him to find the open man, especially in the corners off of kickouts, like these LeBron James type of passes where he drives to the rim and hits a no-look cross-court pass right on the money to KCP in the corner. Giannis is going to have to do more of those, and he has been doing more of those. If I had to pinpoint it, I'd say he's slightly better than Kawhi at that, but just not near LeBron's level at that, though he is approaching it. In terms of shooting, he's shown that he's perfectly willing to take threes. Like last year, he was taking quite a bit of threes per game, and it was one of his best percentages from three-point land on like a high amount of attempts per game. It's still not good though. It's still below league average. So teams are still going to give him that shot because you don't want him at the rim. That's like 100% convert percentage if he gets there, and if he gets there with speed. But he is getting better as a three-point shooter with more attempts. But the only red flag I see is that he regressed as a free throw shooter after multiple years of making improvements there. Also in shooting, I'll lump mid-range shot creation into that category. He's not the most natural shot creator. I mean, it's kind of hard to really be that. Given his body type, not everybody can be Kevin Durant, a 6'11" shot creator. Yeah, that's just not really his game. He's mainly a guy who's going to get to the rim, take an open three if they give it to him. He's not really going to operate in the mid-range like that. Besides pick and roll post fadeaways, I've seen him take more and more often, and he's more confident in that shot. But in terms of shot creation, you can get by in the regular season without having that elite level shot creator that can score over a defense. Even when a defense stops you from getting to the rim, prevents someone from getting a wide open shot, having that guy that can still be able to hit perimeter shots despite almost perfect defense, it's really important, especially in the playoffs where defenses tighten up and more contact is allowed before calling fouls on the defense. You really need that elite level shot creator from the perimeter. Almost every championship team has that guy, and Giannis just isn't that guy right now, and him not being that guy in the playoffs really limits the Bucks in the postseason in terms of how far they can go. Another big thing about Giannis is his usage by Mike Bud. I hope that he'll be used in more pick and roll scenarios instead of just 5-out ISOs for him. Just get him some more movement off ball so that plays can be created more for him. I think that'll make him more lethal. But I also want to talk about the contract extension a bit. It's really dope, especially, as an NBA fan, it's really dope, and especially as a Bucks fan, because we see all of these players who get drafted to small market teams, and whenever this time comes around, they're entering the prime of their career and they're in position to get their first big time payday. They leave the small market team to join a higher market team that can bring in a big three or whatnot. We've seen it over and over. LBJ going to the Heat, Anthony Davis forcing his way out of New Orleans. But this time, Giannis chose to stay, and it's really dope to see. Chris Middleton is Giannis's partner in crime over the past couple years. He's a very efficient second option. He was extremely close to 50-40-90, just his field goal percentage tailed off a slight bit. He was able to put up 21 points a game very efficiently. He's also improved as a playmaker a lot throughout his career, especially in higher usage as well. With him getting more eyes, he is also getting more adept at hitting the open man out of double teams and also just off of pick and roll looks and whatnot. He's a good perimeter defender, not elite or anything, but he's really good, maybe great. He's not going to kill you on the defensive end, and he has pretty good size and length at the small forward position and at the shooting guard position that he sometimes played last year. Is he a good enough second option on a championship team? that remains to be seen because the Bucks haven't made it there yet. Brook Lopez, a player who's really changed his game over the past 3 years, especially with the times in the NBA changing. He's emerged as one of the league's best stretch fives. After most of his time in Brooklyn spent, he was one of the league's best post-up bigs and didn't shoot any threes. So we got to commend Brook Lopez for really changing with the times and keeping his value up. And he's kind of turned into the perfect player to play next to Giannis because of his stretchability, and if teams have to respect Splash Mountain on the perimeter and stay glued to him, you can't really help off of him with your rim protecting center if he's hitting threes. Now last year his efficiency dipped off a bit, but he is still a threat from out there that you can't just ignore. He's also a great rim protector. I think he was like top 5 in blocks per game last season, and he's the perfect player for the Bucks defensive schemes, which just revolves around drop coverage in the pick and roll. Outside of 3-point shooting, he still provides some solid low post play. He doesn't really get like as many go-to like post up plays run for him as he did in Brooklyn, but he still is definitely capable of punishing switches. Donte DiVincenzo came out of the draft as somebody who could be a great defender on the perimeter. That was his reputation out of Villanova, and that's reflected his play in the NBA for the Bucks. He's really solid. He knows what he's doing. Very high IQ player. That's kind of what happens when you play at a powerhouse like Villanova for a couple of years. But he's also pretty disruptive. Gets about 2 steals per 36. The questions about his game were how much of an offensive impact he could provide. And in his rookie year, it was kind of spotty. It wasn't really consistent offensive production, but he did improve from his first year to his second year if you look at his efficiency percentages. He's a guy who's mainly going to be a slasher. 34% of his field goal attempts come from 0 to 3 feet, which he converts at a pretty good rate for being a guard. And Donte DiVincenzo's importance on this team is heightened due to the fact that he is their main young prospect. Obviously, there's guys like DJ Wilson, but Donte DiVincenzo is a bit more of a sure bet than DJ Wilson right now because he's just been more of an instant impact guy. His development on the team is going to be a bit more important due to the team's lack of first-round picks that they have going down the line because of a trade they made. And we're mainly going to be looking at his improvement on the offensive end with that 3-point shot, if he can be a bit more consistent and at a higher percentage. Speaking of that trade in the offseason, their offseason was highlighted by that blockbuster trade they made, bringing in Jrue Holiday for Eric Bledsoe and hella picks. There were some pick swaps, there were some just straight up first round picks, but it's a trade that the Bucks made to just get an upgrade. They upgrade from Eric Bledsoe to Jrue Holiday. What else is there to say? An offensive upgrade, more of a reliable shot creator, more of a reliable shooter, a better playmaker. Bledsoe's a good playmaker, but I think Jrue Holiday is a bit better. And the main thing is he's a bit better in the playoffs. I mean, I know it's not a high mark. Bledsoe just choked every playoffs, underperformed. However you want to put it, his play just really dipped off at a noticeable rate. It would be really stubborn of the Bucks to really just keep hitting their head against the wall and keep going to the playoffs with Bledsoe as their starting point guard. So they upgrade with Jrue Holiday, and it did involve hella first round picks, but the trade worked because it was an upgrade, and it also, I guess you could say, it also convinced Giannis to stay. In the draft, they took Jordan Nwora in the second round. Don't know anything about him. In terms of free agency, it gets a bit interesting. Obviously, the Giannis extension. They brought in some good guys, some notable guys. They brought in Bobby Portis on a 2-year, $7.5 million contract. He's a scoring power forward. Always had that reputation in Chicago and New York. He's going to bring in some bench scoring. Obviously, the hope there is that he doesn't sidetrack their defense or kill their defense. And on the offensive end, you hope that he can kind of fit in more instead of just trying to jack up shots. They also bring in DJ Augustine on a 3-year, $20 million contract. I think this is a great pick for them because they lost George Hill in that trade. And they bring in DJ Augustine, who's like one of the best backup point guards in the league. So yeah, he can come in and do a lot of the things that George Hill does. Probably a better playmaker, not as good of a shooter, but still a pretty damn good shooter. And probably not the defender that George Hill is, but hey, I think it still replicates a lot of the value that George Hill brought. Brent Forms they brought in, good shooter in the backcourt. Why not have more shooters around Giannis Antetokounmpo? They also bring in Torrey Craig, who can be a defensive wing. I don't think he's going to get that much playing time with them, though. I think it's just a depth pickup. A good one, though. And yeah, this looking at the depth chart, this team is talented, man. They got a lot of scoring and playmaking in the backcourt. Like, Dante is a off guard, but he can playmake pretty well for a shooting guard. Jrue Holiday he's a guard that can play either guard position. He can play off ball, but he can definitely play on ball. Bryn Forbes came out of that San Antonio system, so he has some high IQ. And DJ Augustine is one of the best playmaking backup point guards in the league. Obviously, at the forward, they have their duo of Giannis and Middleton. Connaughton is a good spark plug off the bench, and hopefully Portis can provide some offensive pop off the bench. Coaching them is Mike Budd. He's got this rep. He's a great regular season coach. Always had great teams in Atlanta. Had some 60-win teams in Atlanta, getting the 1 seed over LeBron's Cavs. He's gotten out-coached in the playoffs, or just made some mistakes in the playoffs always, and especially in Atlanta. Like when LeBron killed them in the second round sometimes, in the Eastern Conference Finals sometimes, and it's happened in Milwaukee. Nick Nurse outcoached him in 2019, and then Eric Bledsoe did so in 2020, and sometimes it's just as simple as making some adjustments, and that's the real critique on Mike Budd, is that he doesn't adjust enough in the playoffs. So given his constant playoff disappointments, we might be seeing Mike Budd on the hot seat sooner rather than later. The starting lineup will definitely be Jrue, Dante, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook. Pretty damn good starting five. I think they're going to get the first seed in the East. It's going to be another good regular season team. And in the playoffs, I think they're going to finally get over the hump. I think they're finally going to make the NBA Finals. Brooklyn looks really scary. They're going to face off in the Eastern Conference Finals. Bucks, Nets, but I'm taking the Bucks to get there. I think the chemistry that the Bucks have over the past couple seasons, I think Giannis being hungry to make it there, Jrue Holiday also hungry to have some team success finally. Same with Middleton, he's going to want to get to... I think they're finally going to get over the hump and get to the NBA Finals, but I think they're going to lose to my Lakers. Bias? Maybe. That's my prediction, though. Obviously, the Bucks are contending. They're going to be contending for the next 5 years at least because of Giannis' contract. You can argue that the Bucks had the best offseason in the league for the simple fact that they retained Giannis, a generational superstar. They also made a trade to bring in Jrue Holiday, who should be an upgrade over Eric Bledsoe. A great point guard, yes, but one who constantly disappointed in the postseason. A big three of Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday automatically makes Milwaukee one of the best contenders in the league. And with the rim-protecting stretch five, Brook Lopez, and the ever-improving Dante DiVincenzo rounding out the starting lineup, the Bucks are my pick to finally win the East and reach the NBA Finals.
That new wave I was on like last week.